shift your mindset from done to develop. Hey, I'm Pastor Matt here with your Missionary Pathway Mission Insight, and this mission insight is critically important in today's ministry climate. See, the reality is we always seem to be looking for people in churches who are already seasoned and experienced leaders. The problem is they're oftentimes hard to come by, or the reality is they're already serving somewhere else. Why are we always looking for leaders that are already done versus developing new leaders? We need to begin to make a mindset shift from simply looking for experienced leaders to developing new leaders. And if we make that mindset shift to developing new leaders, what we're gonna find is the pool of people we have to choose from is far greater than we ever imagined. So what's the roadblock? Well, I think oftentimes we think it's more difficult than it actually is. Here's the reality. Developing new leaders is much easier than you think. In fact, today I wanna give you 4 keys to develop new leaders. Number 1, first key is time. I have found 70% of the work that goes into developing new leaders is simply setting up the time in my schedule. In fact, when we develop people through the missionary pathway, what I found, if I will just sit down and commit to the dates that I'm gonna walk a group through, what I found is by committing to those dates, I've already done 70% of the work. Because oftentimes we don't develop leaders because we're not sure where it fits into the schedule. So just sit down and build some of that time in your schedule. If you were to just take 10 or 20% of your time and build in for development, you would find huge impact being made in new leaders who are developed simply by setting aside the time. The next key to development is content. Now, this key is important, but it's not the most important thing because there is so much content out there you can choose from. In fact, here's the crazy thing about content. You can learn from good content when it comes to developing leaders. You can also learn from bad content when you're developing leaders. Have you ever read a book in a group that was not a great book and you ended up having a robust discussion about why the book wasn't good, why those principles wouldn't work, and it actually led you to learn things that would work in your ministry context? See, the reality is content is key to developing leaders, but it's not the most important part of developing leaders. As long as you have set aside the time and you have a little bit of content you can dig into, you're on your road to developing leaders. The most important part, though, of developing leaders is not just setting aside the time, but remembering to connect. Connection is the most important part of leadership development because leaders are developed in relationship. In fact, connection is king and content is queen. Connection is the most important because you can set aside that time and you can even have the best content in the world, but if you're not taking time to just connect with those leaders, to discuss the things they're learning, to have the back and forth conversation where you can share from experience, then you won't create an environment in which you can develop new leaders. So setting up time for connection is really simple. You've set up the time, you've got the content. Now simply focus your time for that moment in investing in that leader. Listen to the questions they have. Share insights that you've seen from leading and help them process what it is they're learning from. And then finally, the best way to develop new leaders is to have tangible experiences they can dig into. See, the reality is one of the big parts of developing new leaders is moving things from the head to the heart and the hands. And the best way to do that is to take that time you spent, take that content you've been digging into and that time you've connected, and then give them practical and tangible experiences they can do to really put those things into practice. It could be as simple as if you're leading a team in your church, for example, and you're the one that's responsible for new member development, then giving them an opportunity to lead one of the new member classes, and then taking time afterwards to debrief. If you're talking about a spiritual conversation, then create opportunities. Go out to a place where you can have some spiritual conversations together, where they can watch you have a spiritual conversation, or you can watch them have a spiritual conversation. Look, the reality is there are all kinds of experiences that you can allow people to step into in ministry that would give them tangible opportunities to put the things they're learning into practice. And when they put the things they're learning into practice, that's what begins to move things from the head to the heart and to the hands. And it allows you to develop new leaders. So move your mindset from leaders who are already done, leaders who are already experienced, to people that you could develop into new leaders, and you will find you have an incredible pool of people you could develop. In fact, the Kairos Network has all kinds of resources you can use to help develop new leaders. Missionary Pathway being a great example of one, where you can develop people to learn how to share the gospel in the places they live, work, learn, and play. And if we can help you with development, don't hesitate to reach out. In fact, that's what these mission insights are for. Maybe take this mission insight and discuss it with somebody. So if this was helpful for you, click like and subscribe, share it out with somebody else, and we look forward to seeing you on our next Mission Insight.